a really potentially huge pool of people who are now eligible to unionize.
Yeah, and there was a huge push from rideshare drivers organizing at the Capitol this year.
Yes, and I should say the governor still needs to sign the bill.
Absolutely, as with all of these, that is the way it goes, folks. Yes. One of the another big proposals from the governor was this sort of affordable housing slate of bills. Lots of pushback to the idea of zoning reform from local municipalities, but supporters are saying this isn't just affordable housing, it's also economic development.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get people to live in a particular area, you're not going to be able to get any of that multiplier effect that you have people spending money in the community. And it's interesting because a couple of years ago when the DNC was here, the Democratic National Convention, I spoke with so many mayors at that time, and housing and affordable housing was like the #1 thing that every single mayor talked to me about. And that's certainly the case here in Illinois and in Chicago. And economic development and where people live go hand in hand. Yeah. And jobs too, right? Where people live, where they play, and where they work, all is connected together.
Olivia, do we have any sense of whether any of those sort of build proposals from the governor might come back in the fall veto session or in the lame duck next year, or too soon to say?
I mean, it's a little soon to say. Certainly the governor, when asked directly about this, said he's still continuing to work on it. Certainly the advocates are too. But I mean, even as much as different cities want to see new housing being built, municipalities, some of them were at the forefront of the opposition of these types of proposals because they say it takes away some of their local control. So I think that's a contention that the governor and other supporters of this are going to continue to deal with. That part was certainly not resolved this legislative session.
It was a pretty significant victory for aldermanic prerogative.
I was going to say, writ
I
large.
never vote against aldermanic prerogative.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of someone who may have to contend with aldermanic prerogative one day, Heather, there's a new contender for the mayor of Chicago. That is Illinois Controller Susana Mendoza. What were the key messages you heard as she launched her campaign?
Well, she declared that Chicago is in the midst of a blizzard of incompetence, and you really heard her sort of focus on that metaphor of a blizzard. It was interesting to hear her say that the city was in public safety crisis when we know that it was the lowest murder rate in 60 years last year. It's clear, though, that she is speaking to the people who might see that data but not necessarily feel any safer where they live. And, she took it right to Mayor Johnson, saying that he has done a poor job leading the city over the past 3 years. And we also heard her sort of take aim at Alexi Giannoulias, who many people expect to run for mayor, even though he is also running for another term as Secretary of State. She, of course, ran in 2019, both for mayor and for re-election of comptroller, and sort of got caught in the midst of Rahm Emanuel announcing in a shocking way that he was not going to seek a third term. So this time around, she forego that re-election campaign. She's all in on Chicago's mayor's race. I have not sort of worked through my personal feelings about this, meaning the mayor's race is fully underway.
Yes, it absolutely is. And she's smart to get out of the box early because there's a lot of opportunity there for she had a statement today about the Bears and slammed the mayor about Chicago losing the Bears. So she's trying to use this to her advantage. She knows that Giannoulias and Mike Quigley, the congressman from the north side, another person who says he's running but who's also running for another office, that puts them in a difficult position so she could be out front, and she's been running for a while actually because she's been out in neighborhoods.
For a year,
she's been doing a lot of social media, so she's going to be a serious contender.
Well, and as you mentioned, these other candidates, it's likely to be a crowded field. Mendoza, of course, ran into trouble in 2019 with her connections to folks like convicted former alderman Ed Burke. She actually told us on the show a couple nights ago she thinks the average voter doesn't really care much about Ed Burke anymore. What's your take on that?
Well, I think you're going to see some campaign ads against her that are going to bring up Ed Burke and going to bring up the old Chicago machine and the connection she has. That's an argument that never really dies. But she's got a story to tell. She's got a lot of experience, both as comptroller, as city clerk. She was a state legislator, so she knows all the playing fields of Chicago in terms of politics, and I think she's going to play that up.
And given the sort of running more to the center, to the right of Mayor Johnson, there are other folks that are going to be in that lane as well, like Giannoulias, like Quigley. Do you think that's going to sort of complicate how this race plays out.
Absolutely. So I think that at least at this point, I'm thinking of the mayor's race as sort of two different primaries. And right now, Brandon Johnson, who has not said whether he's going to run for a second term, has the progressive lane to himself. And right now, that moderate centrist lane is very, very crowded. So it's almost as if there are going to be two primaries in that first round of voting. Who's going to be sort of the progressive candidate? Will Brandon Johnson have a challenger from the left? Who's going to emerge from that moderate lane, and will they have enough support to take on Brandon Johnson, who, as of right now, is the only black candidate to sort of be in the mix? Race is always an issue in Chicago, and it's not something any of us should not discount.
But let's not rule out Willie Wilson. This will be his third time running for mayor. Each time he gets 9 to 10% of the vote, that's going to come directly out of Brandon Johnson's hide. So that's something that I think he's got to be looking over his shoulder at.
Absolutely. Well, we never have to look over our shoulder with the four of you. You are all great, but we are out of time. So our thanks to Olivia Olander, Laura Washington, Shruti Singh, and Heather Sharon. And we're back to wrap things up right after this.
Tonight's presentation of Week in Review is made possible in part by Ann and Rich Carr, BNSF Railway, and Francine and Dr. Anthony Brown. Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation. Additional support is provided by
That's our show for this Friday night. For all of us here at the Week in Review, I'm Nick Blumberg. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay informed. Have a great weekend. All right, officials are lifting the curtain on the Obama Presidential Center. What did you all make from some of the preview images that we got? It's pretty impressive stuff.
Pretty spectacular rollout from a public relations standpoint. They did an excellent job of marketing. You can't turn around without hearing about the Obama Center, which is it's an important institution for Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody got plans to go just yet?
I mean, I think the smart move would be to wait for the crowds to ease a
That's going to be months.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting how it's almost inviting the community to the outside spaces as well to the inside spaces. So I think it might be worth even going to just sort of experience what it's like outside in that new branch library and the new plaza. And, I think that it's going to sort of remake that entire
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that supports educational initiatives in the legal profession.